you want in a spring day.
RepleteSkincare.com for your skin to look and feel its best.
Every day is a great day at KCAA Radio. August 9th is National Rice Pudding Day. Rice pudding is made from rice mixed with water and vanilla, cinnamon, and raisins. A variety of recipes are used when preparing the dish, either for dessert or dinner. When preparing rice pudding for dessert, a sweetener such as sugar is added. Dating back to the Tudor period, the earliest rice pudding recipes were called white pot. One of the earliest known methods was written down by Gervase Markham in 1615. The best way to observe National Rice Pudding Day is to have fun in the kitchen by trying this rice pudding recipe and then share it with your family and friends. Use hashtag National Rice Pudding Day to post on social media. For KCAA NBC Radio, I'm Andrew Caravella, and this has been The More You Know. Are you ready for a new experience? To see life from another point of view? New hope, new expression, new joy. This is your radio hour. Welcome to Viewpoint with Father John.
Welcome, friends. You are tuned in to KCAA Radio, 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, 106.5 FM, or on the World Wide Web at kcaaradio.com. This is Viewpoint with Father John, and I am your host, Father John Reed. By the way, you can follow this show on Facebook at Viewpoint with Father John. All of God's children are endowed with extraordinary purpose and ability. I am on a quest to help as many as possible in fully realizing their divinely inspired potential. Disposing of false narrative and embracing genuineness inspires clarity of purpose. My role is to help overcome self-imposed limitations in realizing one's spiritual potential. This is a listener-supported program, so if you want to help keep us on the air, please go to www.viewpointwithfatherjohn.com. Go to the support button, click, and you can add whatever money you like to put to this to keep us on the air. For those who have been contributing, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for helping to keep us on the air. A couple things going on. As you remember, Martha Bass, I've done workshops with, and she's been here a few times as guests on this radio show. Well, folks, we have some good news. We're doing another workshop in October 6th to be precise. Again, it will be in Claremont. We're working on the final details of it, so we'll announce what the subject matter will be. But we're also putting together some videos. Isn't that exciting? So you'll be able to on different topics, see what we have to say on it. We invite you to do that. Here in California, we are still dealing with these fires all over the state. It's incredible, the heat that's going on. And please keep our firefighters and all first responders in your prayers. They're doing quite a job. Some are winding up in the hospital from heat exhaustion because of how hot it is outside. I implore you, if you have lung problems, if you have trouble breathing, asthma, any other COPD, any problem with your lungs, if you're able to, please stay inside. It's not a good time to be outdoors. I know it's bad when on my phone I get an alert saying air quality is so bad, stay inside. If you have asthma, keep your inhaler with you. Needless to say, in my pocket I have my inhaler because Gabby told me if I don't have my inhaler and I stop breathing, she will beat me till I start breathing again. So I if I'm feeling blue, it's not because of you. So anyhow, so tonight we have an excellent show in store for you. I'm grateful to say that my guest tonight is Hollis Joe McCullum, who is the author of the book To Save a World. And so why don't we bring her on air, and Hollis, say hello to the people.
Hi. Hello. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. I'm enjoying my sofa at the moment.
Oh, there you go. There you go. I'll have a potato, too. We're having couch potatoes.
Oh, yeah.
And I appreciate you being up so late. I see my board operator has his inhaler out already, so the air is bad over here. Anyhow,
my goodness.
I hope that's because of the smoke and not because of my breath. Anyhow.
Let's hope so.
Let's hope so for that. But we're keeping you up late, and I appreciate you being here. I know you're on the East Coast, and so you're really doing us quite a mitzvah, as my Hebrew friends would say. So you are you are the author of the book, To Save a World. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it's a fantasy adventure novel with a little romantic subplot because everyone likes a little bit of romance and, makes writing more fun, certainly. And basically the characters don't start off wanting to save the world. The world, the fantasy world that is not Earth, that is this totally different imagination thing, it's polytheistic, and all of the gods got in this huge war many years ago, and they killed each other off. And without any of the gods, there is no one to govern the goings-on and the seasons. And so the world itself is in literal chaos.
Wow.
Mountain ranges popping up overnight, seasons have no meaning, which means that crops are failing, and it's just horrible. And so the characters initially set out to try to just help their own people. Okay. And then through that, they discover a little, surprise, of course, surprisingly for them, but also hesitantly, that they actually are the ones who can solve the problem. Wow. And bring back. There are two gods that could still be revived, and they have to, and once they are restored, then balance can once again be restored to the planet, and seasons will be okay, and then crops will grow appropriately, and so on and so forth. But they have to wrestle with that responsibility because, of course, they, on one hand, they don't want the world to be doomed, which it clearly is. And on the other hand, it's really tough, and they themselves have to sacrifice almost everything just to have it. So they have to make the choice between the quote-unquote right decision and the selfish decision. And, of course, they choose the right decision and help everybody out and kind of give themselves a rough time. But, wow. Yeah, so that's kind of the story in a big nutshell.
I like the way you phrased that, the right decision or the selfish decision. And I like the idea that the two gods, the yin and yang, if you will, if I'm hearing you correctly. What gave you the idea for this storyline?
Well, it is a very nerdy origin. My best friend and I like to play Dungeons and Dragons. And we and this particular story or quest, if you will, was one that we had played back in 2007. Of course, I changed it for the book because from a game to a novel, you have to make adjustments.
Sure.
Because it's not going to directly translate in, addition, subtraction, so on and so forth. But after we went through that quest in that game, I said, I really enjoyed it, and then I just got inspired to sit down and write, and I sat and I said, well, that was a great story. I'm going to write it. And I wrote it down, and then everybody liked it, so I got it published.
Oh, that's nice. Well, I'm going to embarrass my board operator, Nick, at this time, because he being we were not in the confessional, I don't have to keep this a secret, but he might have been one of those people joining you in Dungeons and Dragons. Say hi, Nick.
Oh.
Hi. Yeah, I told him off air that I didn't play Dungeons and Dragons too often myself, but I ran with a group in high school that did.
Isn't that like an alcoholic says, I don't drink that often?
No, Magic the Gathering was my game. That's what I played.
Oh, that's a good one, too.
Yeah, I played Magic the Gathering quite a bit back then, so I'm a fellow nerd, I guess.
Oh, yes. We I feel a kinship with you immediately, Nick. This is nice. I feel comfortable.
Oh my goodness! I feel like a fish out of water. I feel really like I've accomplished something because I figured out how to play solitaire on the computer. Okay, so you guys are both totally out of my league. Well, tell us a little bit about your background. Where do you hail from, and what was your life like?
Well, I've had a great life. Very, very fortunate in my existence thus far, and happy about that. So that's nice. I'm a Navy brat, so to speak. My father is now retired Navy officer.
Well, please thank him for his service on our behalf.
Oh, I certainly will. Thank you so much. Yeah, he's a wonderful guy, and you know, so I was the youngest of three. My brother and sister are older than me, and born originally right in Southern California in Ventura.
Well, that's almost Southern California. We don't always claim Ventura, but that's okay.
Oh, okay.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I like to tease. So yeah, we moved around quite a bit from there. Lived in the South Pacific, and because when you're military and if you're willing to hop on cheap flights that, you know, where the Marines are being shipped from one end to the other, then you can really have a nice cheap vacation and not pay a lot of money for a flight. we got to go to a lot of cool places that you know, that we, again, extremely fortunate. Brother, sister, and I always got along beautifully, played together. Yeah, rare siblings, if you will. We always we had some arguments here and there, like any families do, but really got along really well. And then when my father retired from the Navy for the first time, they did ask him to come back many years later, because he did a great job. So they asked him to come back to Washington. But he retired in Georgia, USA, of all the places, and
Nicely
he got
done.
a job at Emory University for a little while, and and so I, from about the age of 11, I was 11 years old at that time. I had been living in Georgia, grew up, high school, went to college, got my degree in world history, specialization in ancient cultures, particularly the Etruscans and medieval Europe.
Wow.
And then I moved to the Czech Republic for a little while, and then came back and was in Colorado, and then ended up right back here in Georgia. Yeah.
Nice.
I got another job at the university that was my alma mater, Kennesaw State University, and I went to visit some friends and say hello, because I used to work in the international office there as a student assistant. And when I walked in, they said, "We have a job opening that you'd be perfect for." And I said, "Great! I just got back to the United States. I need a job." So I got the job as the international admissions advisor for Kennesaw State, which means that I was the visa officer for all the international students, and for 7 years there, and I loved it. And then I went to private sector and so on. But yeah, I babble. Please tell me to.
Well, that's
be quiet
okay.
whenever.
When you're talking about dealing with visas, when I was the chancellor for the diocese, I handled that for our clergy. So I do know the headaches that go with dealing with. We dealt with are called R1 visas.
Yep.
And you know, it's interesting. People think that President Obama was easy on immigration, and he wasn't. He really made it a lot more difficult, even almost as difficult as they are now, for getting visas. Because I can remember before he took office, I can just send in the paperwork, and it went through pretty easily. And by his second term, I was really having to fight to get people over here from the Philippines, and these were good priests. They were just coming over to do priesthood. We'll talk a little bit more about this after the break. We're coming up to break. My guest tonight is Hollis Jo McCullum. Am I saying your last name correctly?
You are, yes, thank you.
So we'll be back in just 2 and 2.
The loss of a loved one is one of the most challenging experiences in a person's life. It's hard to know where to turn to make your loved one's final arrangements. Jesse Ruiz at Personal Funeral Planning in Ontario will treat you and your loved one with the respect you deserve. Jesse served in the Marine Corps in Desert Storm and understands what it takes to provide loyal, personalized, and empathetic service to those who need it most. The families of Michael Jackson, Brittany Murphy, Ed McMahon, and many others have trusted Jesse to provide them with the highest level of service and support. To work with Jesse, call 909-762-4027, 909-762-4027, or visit their website, www.4pfp.org. www.4pfp as in personal funeral planning.org. Jesse Ruiz and Personal Funeral Planning, veteran owned and operated, helping you plan a personal, lasting tribute for your loved one. www.4pfp.org.
I'm so tired of the buffering on my smartphone.
I'm so over it. Next.
Right? I am so over it. Next.
A radio? Next.
No buffering, just your favorite local radio station?
Next Radio uses the FM tuner that is already built into your phone, so you can listen to your favorite stations on the go. Because Next Radio uses the FM tuner already built into your smartphone, it saves on data and battery usage. When compared to streaming audio, Next Radio uses less than 1/10 of your data, and your battery will last 3 times longer. Next Radio, it's FM radio on your smartphone.
Introducing a radio inside your cell phone. Listen to all kinds of local radio stations, including KCAA 106.5 Yucaipa and 102.3 Riverside on Next Radio. Download the free Next Radio app today. 100% free, 100% fun, 0% buffering. Stop the buffer and listen to KCAA.
Now, here's a new concept: digital network advertising, where businesses display your ad inside their building. If a picture's worth 1,000 words, your company is going to thrive with digital network advertising. Choose your marketing sites or jump on the DNA system and advertise with all participants. Your business ad or logo is rotated multiple times an hour inside local businesses where people will discover your company. Digital network advertising. DNA, a novel way to be seen and remembered. Digital network advertising with networks in Redlands and Yucaipa. Call in the 909 area 222-9293 for introductory pricing. That's 909-222-9293 for digital network advertising. One last time, digital network advertising, 909-222-9293.
And welcome back. You are tuned to KCAA Radio, 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, 106.5 FM, or on the World Wide Web at KCAAradio.com. This is Viewpoint with Father John, and I am your host, Father John Reed. By the way, if you ever want to see back programs that we've done, episodes, you can go to YouTube, type in Viewpoint with Father John, KCAA, and you'll get a whole list of previous programs shown on YouTube. See my pretty smiling face there as we talk to different guests. If you had a guest that you really liked what they had to say and you want to hear the program again, please do that. Also, if you want to know more about programs going on that Martha Bass and I are doing, there's a couple ways you can do this. One, like us on Facebook at Viewpoint with Father John, and you could send me messages there, or you can go to the show website at www.viewpointwithfatherjohn.com, go to contact, and you can send me messages. And by the way, I am the only one who reads the messages there, so please feel free to put whatever you like there, other than if you don't like my haircut. That you can keep to yourself. So, again, tonight my guest is the author of the book, To Save the World, and this is so how is... when you were traveling, when your father was in the Navy, what was your favorite place that you lived, besides the U.S.?
Oh, goodness. This is a hard question, my goodness. As a child, I would have to say the island of Guam. It's part of Micronesia in the middle of the South Pacific. For those who don't know, it's very hard to find on a map, so don't feel bad if you don't know where it is.
My sister's husband was there when he was in the Air Force.
Oh, yep. So you know exactly where it is. It's very tiny.
Yes.
Yep. It's. I really enjoyed that because as a kid, you get to really just we used to just explore. My parents were wonderful about encouraging us to explore the world and to see everything. And my dad used to take the three of us out, what we called boony stomping, where we would go stomp around in the boonies and go into the jungle and just walk around, and he would point out animals and plants and all sorts of things and say, oh, hey, this is a chalk rock, and, you know, that kind of frog is whatever. And
wow.
It was wonderful, very magical for a small child. I was 3 and 4 when we lived on Guam, but I remember it really well.
Wow, that's, you know, it's funny you talk about going into the jungle, and I grew up in Ontario, California, Southern Cal.
Oh, goodness.
And I always wanted to go to the jungle. The closest I got to it was I went to Chino once, and that was about as close as I got to the jungle. These days I go to the botanical gardens and pretend I'm in a jungle.
Well, that's fun too. Hey, no knocking that.
That's true. That's true. So, when you were doing all the gaming, what did that do for you? Was it a way of connecting with people? Was it a way of a distraction, or was it something that hooked your attention because you got to use your imagination? What was your draw?
Honestly, the imagination. My brother, sister, and I were always very creative, and we all draw. We all. My brother actually writes as well. He hasn't attempted to get anything published, but I firmly believe that he could. He's got a really great style, and he is a great writer as well.
Good.
But yeah, we just, and my brother and sister were the ones who got me into it in the first place, with Dungeons and Dragons specifically, and most things, because they're my older siblings. And yeah, I used to just kind of listen in on their games when they said I was too little to play and I wasn't going to do it right, that they would let me listen sometimes. And I really loved the stories, just the imagination that goes into thinking up an adventure, and then just deciding what's going to happen next, and then to a degree not knowing what's going to happen next, because these other people are making decisions. And then as the person who is leading the quest, you know, you have what they call the dungeon master, or the game master, who does all the plotting and then has to deal with reactions. is really cool.
I didn't know that. I heard of the game. I've known people who did live versions of the game. I mean, they would have places that they would meet up and actually act out the different characters.
Yes, yeah.
Did you do any of that?
Well, not that. I have. It's called LARPing, live action role play.
It scares me that my board operator's over here nodding his head. He knows everything you're talking about. So,
yes.
Please continue.
Yes, it's good. It's good times. It's good exercise too. Hey, there's nothing that'll get you sweatier than swinging a foam sword in a full suit of armor.
Actually, I grew up in martial arts, so I actually understand that part. So go ahead.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, that's very cool. I love that. And so, yeah, and you'd be a great LARPer then. You could really pull some punches.
Yeah, and then I can give them last rites if I get too close. Yeah, that'll work out.
Right. That's right. Exactly. You're the whole package.
There you go. I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you. Go ahead.
Oh no, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah. Well, I've LARPed maybe once or twice. I haven't done it that often. What I have done for the past 22 years is what's called cosplay, which is where you dress up like characters and you go to conventions like Comic Con or Dragon Con over here on the East Coast. Oh. And you just get to, a lot of people are in character, and I use my cosplaying for volunteering, which I love to do. So I'm actually one of the admins for my volunteer group here. We're one of the bigger volunteer groups in Georgia, and essentially we dress up like children's characters, mostly Disney stuff, and we go to things like children's hospitals and the Ronald McDonald House and Make-A-Wish, and we, do Minnie Mouse or whatever, and just try to brighten their day, because little kids in the hospital, poor things, they don't know why they're sick. They just know they feel awful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about that, because I think of one of my favorite quotes, and it's even on my Facebook page, that says, "A man stands his tallest when he stoops to help a child," and that man being man or woman is the universal term of it. And so I'm always interested in hearing about what people are doing to help children who are dealing with difficulty. So tell us a little bit about that, because I look at that as a sort of ministry. It doesn't have to have religion involved, but it's a reaching out beyond yourself, would love to help others, and to me that's what a ministry is. So you go to like Children's Hospital for that?
Yes. So we are, well, the name of the group is Cosplay Volunteers of Atlanta, and we are in touch with people at the hospitals in our area, as well as people who have events like the ALS walk,
nice.
the heart walk, and all these things. And they call us up. We're strictly volunteer. We never do anything for money. Sometimes people call us to do birthday parties, and we're like, look, we are a volunteer group, and if you would like to ask our individual members if they will come to your party, that's fine, but that's not what we do. And
I'm not laughing at you. I'm not laughing at you. The reason I'm laughing is one of the only jobs I've ever been fired at was being a clown for parties, and
oh goodness,
I was told I wasn't funny. It really hurt my feelings.
Oh no, you're a sad clown, very sad clown. It sounds like.
Oh yeah, I worked hard. I mean, I played guitar, did all kinds of stuff. And,
wow.
You blow one birthday party and your career as a clown's over. But some people say I'm still in that role. I just don't wear makeup anymore. So.
Well, and that's well, and honestly, when you're dressed up at a party and you're trying to help a child have a good time, or a bunch of children have a good time, in the case of a birthday, you really are a counselor in a lot of ways. So it's not horribly different, but yeah, volunteering is wonderful. It really feeds the spirit, if you will. It really makes me feel really good, and it keeps you on your toes. Oh my gosh, I'm sure you'll know from being around kids and everything that they will ask you some questions.
Oh yeah.
And you're just like, oh no, I had no idea.
That happens.
Talk to my friend over here.
That happens in priesthood more often than you realize, and sometimes kids come up with great questions. One thing a kid once said, an old show called Ed Sullivan. And
I know that one. Yep.
Yeah, and he would do this thing called Kids Say the Darndest Things. And he had a knothead boy on his program one time, and he asked the kid what his definition, he asked him the definition of words. And he said, so the kid's word was miracle. And the kid says, a miracle is something that can't happen till it does. And that's
a great quote.
Yeah, I love it. And, I think of that, and when I'm talking to people quite a bit, particularly dealing with addiction and such, I use that definition because I say, you can't get sober till you do, or whatever it is we're dealing with there. Now, do you ever deal with children with autism?
Oh, yes. Yeah, we actually, there's one of the events that we do yearly there is an autism awareness event. That happens, and they most of the events that we work with, we're very grateful that they usually call us every year and say, please come out. And so we have yearly bookings, and, which we're so pleased and so grateful that people feel that we help brighten the situation, and that we are helpful, because that's the goal, is to be there and to enhance experiences and make people feel good and feel better. But yes, I've definitely spent more than the average person time around autistic children.
Well, that says a lot to me, because it takes a very special talent, almost miracle working talent, being able to get through, depending on where they are on the spectrum, and giving them something that they can relate to, that they can enjoy, and yet doesn't terrify their world. So I really commend you for that, and I'm grateful for your service to children with autism. I really wish we had better information out about it. There's been really bad information put out of what causes it, and You know, unfortunately, we're dealing with a lot of bad conspiracy theories in our culture right now, and things that medical science have proved does not cause autism are still getting some blame for some people who like a good conspiracy. And I'm not saying that to put anybody down. What I'm trying to say is these are special children who truly need our love, truly need our patience, and need our imagination so that we can find how do we fit in their world, so that we can bring them into our world as well. And the two worlds don't have to be so far apart, but can actually have places of contact. So that's excellent. It says a lot that they book you annually, because that says you're making a big difference.
They're wonderful. Well, and just speaking to your point about autism, I fully agree with you, and I think that one of the things that people don't realize about autism is it's really, we call it a disability, but it's not really. Autism is a completely different perspective on the world.
Yes.
Many autistic people are geniuses. They're very, very highly intelligent and very emotional as well. They don't show it like most people do. But once you can kind of wrap your brain around, okay, I understand their perspective now, then you realize autism is not that difficult. It's just being able to see, to understand what they understand.
It's like learning a new language.
Exactly. It's kind of a different language, and in many ways almost like a different culture. And like I said, most of them are highly intelligent and more than happy and eager to interact. They just need you to be patient enough to realize that, number one, they're trying to interact with you, and number two, that they are seeing the world in almost an opposite sort of way than we do. And it's amazing the conversations and the experiences you can have once you exercise that patience.
Well, I can remember when I was studying in college, a little bit about autism, and we know a lot more now than we did back then, because I am kind of an old fella now. And then I had my opportunity to be around people with autism, particularly with Asperger's, and worked with a couple guys for a number of years now. They're friends of mine. And one of the things that they've dealt with is they have trouble reading people's signals, their emotions, what they're trying to, social cues. And so they're having to develop their own type of software, if you will, excuse the expression, to where they can interpret where some people are coming from, how they can relate in relationships and get a better understanding. I did a wedding for a couple that had two different forms of Asperger's. We don't know that there's more than one form. And it was interesting. I didn't know that. Yeah, it was interesting to see how they learned to relate to each other once they both found out that they were on the spectrum. And one found out before the other one did. And it was through the first one's diagnosis that the other one in late life wound up getting tested and finding out that they too had Asperger's. So, there's a lot about that ailment that for us to learn about, and great room for compassion. We're getting ready to come up on our next break, but I'd like to talk a little more about this on the other side of the break, and I'd like to hear a little bit about some of the things you studied with history, because I too am a big fan of history, and it's funny how it changes through time, that it's always given by the victor, but when you hear history from the bottom up, how often it's a different story. So, so we'll talk a little more about that after the break. My guest this evening is the author, Hollis Jo McCullen.
The loss of a loved one is one of the most challenging experiences in a person's life. It's hard to know where to turn to make your loved one's final arrangements. Jesse Ruiz at Personal Funeral Planning in Ontario will treat you and your loved one with the respect you deserve. Jesse served in the Marine Corps in Desert Storm and understands what it takes to provide loyal, personalized, and empathetic service to those who need it most. The families of Michael Jackson, Brittany Murphy, Ed McMahon, and many others have trusted Jesse to provide them with the highest level of service and support. To work with Jesse, call 909-762-4027, 909-762-4027, or visit their website, www.4pfp.org. www.4pfp as in personalfuneralplanning.org. Jesse Ruiz and Personal Funeral Planning, veteran owned and operated, helping you plan a personal, lasting tribute for your loved one. www.4pfp.org.
If you're looking for a full or part-time sales position and you have radio, TV, or print media experience, KCAA has a great opportunity waiting for you that pays the highest commissions in the market. KCAA is the only station in the IE that broadcasts on 3 frequencies, so advertisers receive 3 ads for 1 low rate. This makes KCAA a must-buy for every local business. If you're interested in a sales position with us, email CEO@KCAAradio.com.
There's a new furniture store in town, DC Furniture in the Tri-City Center. What's so grand about DC Furniture? Well, they've got a wide selection and discounts up to 70% off retail. But the best part is they carry furniture for your home, not for some magazine photo. Furniture you can live with. That's what you get at DC Furniture, just off the Alabama exit of Interstate 10 on Industrial Parkway in Redlands. You'll feel at home at DC Furniture.
Every day is a great day at KCAA Radio. August 9th is National Rice Pudding Day. Rice pudding is made from rice mixed with water, milk, coconut milk, evaporated milk, or cream, and sometimes vanilla, cinnamon, and raisins. A variety of recipes are used when preparing the dish, either for dessert or dinner. When preparing rice pudding for dessert, a sweetener such as sugar is added. Dating back to the Tudor period, the earliest rice pudding recipes were called white pot. One of the earliest known methods was written down by Gervase Markham in 1615. The best way to observe National Rice Pudding Day is to have fun in the kitchen by trying this rice pudding recipe and then share it with your family and friends. Use hashtag National Rice Pudding Day to post on social media. For KCAA NBC Radio, I'm Andrew Caravella, and this has been The More You Know.
And welcome back, friends. You are tuned to KCAA Radio, 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, 106.5 FM, excuse me, around the World Wide Web at KCAAradio.com. This is Viewpoint with Father John. I am your host, Father John Reed, who's choking on a little piece of apple right now. So, and that's what I get for making a pig of myself at Farrell's. And for those of us who are old enough to remember Farrell's ice cream, which is now coming back, by the way. And I talk about them more, but they need to buy a commercial. so Farrell's, if you're listening, you just got your first shot across the bow. So, couple things. Again, I want to remind everybody that Martha Bass and I will have another workshop coming up on October 6, 2018 in Claremont at the UCC Church on Harvard and Harrison. And it's going to be sort of a continuation of what we did last time. We did a workshop on forgiveness. Now we're going to do one that's focused more on how to make your life whole, to have healing in your life. So it'll be a really good workshop. We're also going to be offering some workshops on video. So for more information on this, please like us on Facebook, and also you can send me a message if you want to receive emails. We do not sell our email list. I want to be real clear about that. So if you do send us that you want upcoming information, we do guard your information with great care, and we do not let that go to anybody outside our circle. Also, it's up in the air how much of the program is recorded at the moment. We're having some technical difficulties, and Nick is pulling his hair out so much he's not going to have to shave tomorrow. So, but he's doing a great job. We'll do what we can for you folks. We'll put what we have on Facebook, or not Facebook, YouTube. But we'll see what it is. Sooner or later, it will be up on there. And I want to make it real clear, it's not Nick's fault. Do not mug Nick. He didn't do this. I'll give you the station manager's number. You can mug him. Anyhow, just don't tell him where you got the number. Anyhow, I'm delighted to have our author with us tonight to save a world, which is Hollis Joe McCullen. And speaking of books, a little shameless promotion here. Don't forget to go out and get my book, Close Your Eyes So You Can See Me, which is available on Amazon.com, BarnesandNobles.com, or any self-respecting online bookstore. If they don't have it, they should not be self-respecting. So, having said that, Hollis, where can people get your book?
Well, it's available on Amazon as well as BarnesandNoble.com. Thank you so much for asking. And it's also on, when you'll know what this is, what's called the Ingram list, which is the international list that booksellers use to order things. So you could technically walk into any bookstore in the world, and just as long as you know the title and the author, which thank you again for mentioning several times, then you can just request it and they'll order it for you.
I've had people do that with my book, but they said they just didn't like the look the people were giving them when they said my book by name. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, really?
No, I'm just joking. I'm just being funny. As my listeners are used to, they know that I have a warped sense of humor. Now, you are a history major, a scholar.
I was, yep. My degree is in world history with the specialization in ancient cultures, particularly the Etruscan culture of ancient Italy.
Well, you know, it's funny. People are always shocked when I tell them that love was never even mentioned in marriage until after the troubadours. They're the ones who introduced a romantic idea of marriage. Up until then, it was a business proposition, merging families and families' businesses. Was that how you learned it as well in history?
Oh, yes, definitely. And that is something that people are always taken aback by. They go, oh, no, because they're so used to the Victorian concept of love, which is when the whole concept of being married for love actually came into being in the 1800s, that late. Before then, people sometimes got married for love, but honestly, most of the time it was still a political arrangement.
Yes.
And then because Victoria and Albert loved each other so much, and they were, a match like that, and it was so popularized that people wanted to be as happy as the king and queen. And
that's when Albert learned all of Victoria's secrets. Yes, I'm.
That's right. Yep. and then a lingerie line was born.
I have some listeners that would have been really disappointed had I not done that. So everyone else, forgive me. That was for two people. Steve, that's love coming to you. So, and it's funny because I've taught on this program and a program I was a co-host of before. The fact that the reason adultery was such a major sin was because of the fact you were messing with company product. Women were considered property. Now, I don't endorse that thought. I want to be real clear about that. One thing Jesus did was talk about, he tried to bring equality around and let us all know that no, men and women are equal and should be treated as such. But at that time, it was really different, and I'm so grateful things have changed. One of the things that always made me crazy is these specials you have about, these movies about Jesus, and there's one in particular, and I can't think of the name of it, and I'm probably because I have such a resentment towards that misrepresentation, where it shows Mary with her girlfriends, and she sees Joseph. Oh, and Joseph looked at you, and they were going to start dating. It never worked that way.
Oh, really? Oh, my goodness. What a funny way to portray, that.
And it's kind of how...
The Canaanites doing something like that is so funny and silly.
You get my frustration.
Right.
So as somebody with degrees in this and biblical history, to see that kind of misrepresentation, and unfortunately there's so many people who don't know the history that they don't know that what they just saw wasn't even close to accurate. Joseph and Mary wouldn't have met until their families made the deal, and then they were both informed. You were getting married. Surprise,
Right. And you're bringing me back to when as I've told you, I was raised Roman Catholic, and bringing me back to when we would go to CCD after Mass,
Yes.
And they would show us the cartoon videos of, okay, this is Adam and Eve, and they were all geared towards little kids so that little kids could kind of absorb and digest the stories without overwhelming them. And, you know, when you look back on those, you go, oh, wow, they really oversimplified that.
Well, did they ever give you a story about when Eve got really jealous of Adam? Did you get that one? And
I did not get that one.
Oh,
no.
yeah, it's a great story. So Adam comes home, and Eve says, "You've been out seeing other women." And Adam says, "There are no other women."
Oh,
and she says, "Oh, yeah? Let me count your ribs." I'm sorry. I just had to do it.
That's a good one. I like that one.
I stole that from my old hero, Father Joseph Martin, who was a Roman Catholic priest, by the way.
Oh, very nice. Well, I'm going to have to tell my dad that one because he loves a good joke like that, and you know the dad jokes are strong with him, so he'll enjoy that. I think the bagel jokes are his favorite of all time.
I'm going to just walk away with a little bit of dignity left because I have some of those jokes, and I'm just, you know, I don't want an FCC letter. And I'm not such good friends with the FCC. I want them to start writing me. So.
Oh no! Yeah.
So, what was your favorite period of history to study?
The Bronze Age, most certainly. I am very fascinated by what went on then, and that there was so much that we still don't know how they did it back in the Bronze Age, in the Mediterranean world, and everywhere.
It was aliens.
Right, of course, naturally. Problem solved.
I just lost 4 listeners, so I'm down to 2.
Oh, you need to just start spraying your hair straight up, and you know, how does that guy? Is his name Giorgio? He kind of has that particular hairstyle.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the Ancient Aliens program.
Oh, you know what? I never really watched that one too much, but right after my show is isn't it the old Coast to Coast, Nick?
It's
the new version.
It's called Midnight in the Desert with I forget her name right off the top of my head, but it's someone who actually used to sub for Art Bell back in the old days, and now she has her own show.
Now, I hope everyone heard that. Since he started working with me, he knows the name of no other talk show host. I mean, that's pretty impressive, if I say so myself. Now I'm going to take a moment to talk about my humility. Also, I appreciate you being such a great sport. So you were really fascinated by the Bronze Age, and I can see that because there's much about that time that holds great fascination with me as well. Now, do you do any teaching?
Well, I used to back in the day. I don't anymore, unless you know, I could take it on a sort of like, oh, well, don't we all kind of teach and learn every day? But in a very solid sense, not anymore. When I was working, and when I was in the Czech Republic, actually, I'm a certified TEFL instructor internationally. I mean, you know, teacher of English as a foreign language. So that's what I did over there. Like most Americans who go abroad, you know, hello, easiest job. I will get certified and make money this way. And
now, did their checks ever bounce?
Oh. Nah, thancefully, no. I taught adults when I was there, and I've got some claims to fame. I actually the president of Pilsner Arkell Beer was one of my students.
Wow, I'll drink to that.
And yeah, he really needed a conversation partner. He was fluent in English. He just wanted somebody to keep his skills up so that when he went to speak to clients who were English speakers, he wouldn't make mistakes. But yeah, he didn't need me to go through grammar with him. He really just needed me to converse with him and have a conversation partner, which was great for me. Very little lesson planning involved. So I did used to do that, but and now as far as being a history professor or teacher is concerned, I actually have never officially done that. I substitute taught for a bit when I was 18. which is how I found out I did not want to become a teacher. That was my original plan, was to be a high school teacher when I was a freshman in college. And thank goodness I said, well, let me do this subbing job and make sure I like it, because I said, you know, I love learning and I love the whole education world, but I think I'll be that bitter old woman after 30 years of this, so I don't want to do it.
I have a friend who teaches 10th grade high school, and Natalie's a wonderful lady, and I have no idea how she does it. Don't get me wrong, I mean, it's not just children, but the culture that we're in right now, where we don't have the backing of many parents for the teaching staff. You know, when I was a child, which is, you know, back when we were still using chisels and rocks to do our homework, so to speak, you know, if we got in trouble at school, I mean, we got in trouble at home. And these days, one of the things teachers are dealing with, which I find heartbreaking, is if the child gets in trouble at school, the teacher is the one who gets in trouble. Yeah. And I know of somebody who was teaching high school that through the entire class, when the kids aren't supposed to have cell phones, they would be videoing the class so that they can find anything they can catch him in and try to get him fired. And
it's so terrible. And, you know, the people who teach, they're stronger than me. Like I said, I realized I didn't want to do it, and they're so strong and they're so kind to do that, and it's such a wonderful and compassionate thing, and I wish that today's society treated it as such and respected a bit more, because I have friends who are teachers as well, and they have told me some similar stories, and it's very sad. I mean, it wasn't that way when I was a kid either. You know, with the parent-teacher conferences would come around, and mom and dad would talk to the teacher, and you had better have been good, because if you weren't, you know, you were grounded. And that was. But now, you know, the parents will say, "Not my baby," and I experienced it a little bit as an advisor with university students. I would be shocked.
Well, and I'm going to say something that may strike some people that they're not happy with, but that's okay. I'm the one with a microphone. And that is, we need to start paying our teachers a living wage. We're just not paying them as much as we should for what they're doing. And I like to propose, if I have anyone in politics who is listening, that with as much as education is costing these days, if someone commits to a 5-year commitment teaching, that we should forgive their student loans. Because they're not making enough money to pay all their bills, pay the student loans back, and on top of that, they're having to buy a lot of their own supplies for their classrooms. And that's I don't think that's reasonable. I think we should be backing them, because they are the ones preparing the next generation. We are quite dependent upon them. And I think we need to rethink about how we're doing things on the level of education. Now that I've said all that, and we're coming to the end of our hour here, I really do want to. Yeah, time flies when you're having fun. And you know, I really want to thank you for coming on the show. My guest tonight has been Hollis Jo McCullum, author of the book To Save a World. It sounds like it's a wonderful read. I just thumbed a few things and got a kick out of it. It has a nice storyline to it.
Thank you.
But I really want to recommend that people give it a good read, particularly if you're a gamer. I think you'll really enjoy the book a lot, and you've been generous with your time, and I'm grateful to you. I want to thank my board operator, Nick. He's done a great job tonight. And I want to thank my beloved wife, Gabby, who's sitting across the studio saying I didn't do anything that's going to give me an FCC letter. So that means it'll be a pleasant ride home tonight all the way to the People's Republic of Claremont. And and for those who tuned in again this week, if no one told you that they loved you, let me be the first. And thank you again for spending this hour with me on Viewpoint with Father John. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you so much.
This is Dick from Carpet Masters. Carpet Masters has been serving the Inland Empire for over 55 years. Carpet Masters uses extraction cleaning for your carpet because there's no better cleaning to remove the soil from your carpet. All of our furniture cleaning is done by hand in your home or in our plant. Carpet Masters also offers dry cleaning for fine furniture.